The sky over Chicago turned black that Tuesday morning in 2387. Jake Morrison stood on the roof of his military base and watched the alien ships block out the sun. The ships were huge. Each one was bigger than a city block. They moved slowly through the air without making any sound. Jake had been a soldier for 20 years. He had fought in wars across the world, but he had never seen anything like this. The ships looked like they were made of dark metal that seemed to eat light. Strange symbols glowed purple along their sides. "Sir, we need to get you to the bunker," said his aide, a young man named Pete Collins. Pete's voice was shaking. Jake could see fear in the young man's eyes. Jake nodded. He took one last look at the alien ships. Then he followed Pete down the stairs into the underground bunker. The bunker was full of people: soldiers, scientists, government officials. Everyone looked scared. The alien attack began at exactly noon. The ships fired beams of red light that cut through buildings like a hot knife through butter. The beams made no sound. They just burned through everything they touched. Steel melted. Concrete turned to dust. Glass became liquid. Jake watched on the monitors as the aliens landed their smaller ships in the city. The beings that came out were tall and thin. Their skin was purple. They had long arms and 6 fingers on each hand. They wore armor that looked like it was made of liquid metal. The human military tried to fight back. Tanks fired shells at the aliens. The shells bounced off their armor like rocks hitting a wall. Fighter jets attacked from the air. The alien ships shot them down with beams of light. In 2 hours, the entire military force in Chicago was gone. The aliens did something strange then. They did not kill the people who survived. Instead, they set up camps in the city. They herded humans into these camps like cattle. They put metal collars around their necks. The collars shocked anyone who tried to run away. Jake was captured on the 3rd day. He had been hiding in the bunker with 50 other people. The aliens found them anyway. They seemed to know exactly where to look. They dragged everyone out and put them in trucks. The camp was in what used to be Grant Park. Thousands of people sat on the ground behind tall fences. The fences buzzed with electricity. Guards walked around the outside. The guards were not just the purple aliens. There were other species too. Some looked like giant lizards. Others had tentacles instead of arms. A man named Frank Rodriguez sat next to Jake. Frank was old, maybe 70 years old. He had worked for NASA before the invasion. He still wore his NASA jacket, even though it was torn and dirty. "Why are they keeping us alive?" Jake asked. Frank looked around to make sure no guards were listening. Then he spoke in a low voice. "I heard them talking. They speak some kind of universal language. I picked up a few words. They call us workers. They need us for something." Over the next few days, Jake learned what the aliens wanted. They came from an empire called the Zephyrian Empire. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had enslaved dozens of species. But humans were special. Humans could survive in places where other species would die. The aliens tested the humans. They put them in rooms with poisonous air. The humans lived. They put them in freezing cold chambers. The humans survived. They put them in boiling hot rooms. The humans adapted. "Your species is valuable," said one of the alien commanders. His name was something Jake could not pronounce. The alien spoke through a translator device. "You will work for the Empire. You will build our cities. You will mine our resources. You will serve us well." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "We are not your slaves," he said. The alien commander hit Jake with a shock stick. Pain shot through his body. He fell to the ground. The alien stood over him. "You are whatever we say you are," the alien said. "You are no longer free. You belong to the Empire now. That night, Jake lay on the hard ground of the camp. Around him, thousands of other humans tried to sleep. Children cried for their parents. Old people coughed and wheezed. Everyone was scared, but Jake was not just scared. He was angry. He thought about his country. He thought about his family. He thought about all the things the aliens had taken from him. He made a promise to himself that night. He would never accept being a slave. He would find a way to fight back. The next morning, the aliens began loading humans onto their ships. Jake was put on a ship with 2,000 other people. The ship was dark and cold. People were packed together like animals. There was not enough food. There was not enough water. The journey to the alien mining world took 3 weeks. Many people died during the trip. The aliens threw the bodies out into space. They did not care about human life. To them, humans were just tools to be used. When the ship finally landed, Jake saw his new home. It was a world covered in purple rocks. The air was thick and hard to breathe. The sky was orange. 2 suns hung in the sky like burning eyes. The aliens marched the humans off the ship. They gave them mining tools and pointed to the caves in the distance. A guard, one of the lizard-like creatures, spoke through a translator. "You will dig?" the guard said. "You will find the crystals we need. You will work until you die. If you try to escape, we will kill you. If you try to fight, we will kill you. If you do not work hard enough, we will kill you." Jake looked at the caves. They were dark and deep. He could smell poisonous gases coming from them. He knew that many humans would die in those caves. But he also knew something else. Humans were survivors. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars. They would survive this too. As he walked toward the caves with the other humans, Jake thought about Frank Rodriguez and his NASA jacket. He thought about the promise he had made to himself. Somewhere in the galaxy, there had to be other humans who were planning to fight back. The aliens thought they had won. They thought humans would accept being slaves forever. But they did not understand humans. They did not know that humans never gave up. They did not know that every human who died in those caves would be remembered. They did not know that one day humans would make them pay for every crime they had committed. Empire thought it had conquered Earth, but Jake knew better. The war was just beginning. 25 years had passed as the aliens took Earth. Jake Morrison was now an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. He still worked in the crystal mines on the Purple World. Every day, he went down into the poisonous caves. Every day, he came back up with bags of glowing crystals. But Jake was not the same man who had been captured all those years ago. He had learned to speak the alien language. He had learned how their machines worked. Most importantly, he had learned how to hate quietly and plan carefully. The mining world was called Kepler-7 by the humans. The aliens called it something else, but the humans did not care about alien names. Over the years, 50,000 humans had been brought to work on Kepler-7. Many had died from the poisonous air or the dangerous work. But the ones who survived had become something new. Katie Sullivan was one of those survivors. She had been just a child when the aliens took her from Earth. Now she was a woman of 30. She had grown up in the mines. She could hold her breath for 10 minutes. She could see in the dark. She could climb walls like a spider. The poisonous air that killed most aliens barely bothered her. Katie worked in the deepest part of the mines. Down there, the alien guards rarely went. The air was too dangerous for them. But humans could work there safely. It was in those deep tunnels that Katie found something interesting. She was digging crystals when her tool hit something hard. It was not a rock. It was metal. She dug carefully around it. Soon she uncovered a piece of alien technology. It looked like a small box with blinking lights. Katie hid the box under her shirt. That night, she brought it to Frank Rodriguez. Frank was very old now, but his mind was still sharp. He had been studying alien technology for 25 years. He knew more about their machines than most aliens did. Frank looked at the box carefully. His eyes got wide. "This is a communication device," he whispered. "It connects to their main network. If I can fix it, we can listen to their messages." Frank worked on the device for weeks. He used parts from broken mining equipment. He used wires from old lights. He used crystals from the mines. Slowly, he put together a machine that could intercept alien communications. The first message they heard was about a food shipment. The second was about guard schedules. The third message changed everything. "New batch of workers arriving from Sol 3, the message said. Sol 3 was the alien name for Earth. 10,000 units. Destination: mining station Omega 7. Frank and Katie looked at each other. 10,000 more humans were coming. They were going to another mining world. This was their chance to spread the word. Katie knew a man named Marcus Chun who worked in the transport division. Marcus loaded and unloaded the ships that brought supplies to the mining world. He was smart and careful. He could get messages to the new arrivals. Marcus had been a military officer on Earth. He understood strategy and tactics. When Katie told him about the communication device, he smiled for the first time in years. "We can build a network," Marcus said. "We can connect every human in the Empire." They started small. Marcus hid tiny pieces of paper in supply boxes. The papers had simple messages written on them. "You are not alone. We remember Earth. Stay strong." The messages were signed HR, Human Resistance. The supply boxes went to other mining worlds, other factory worlds, other slave camps. Humans found the messages and copied them. They wrote new messages and hid them in their own supply boxes. Within a year, the network reached a dozen worlds. Within 2 years, it reached 50 worlds. The aliens never noticed. They did not think their slaves were smart enough to organize. On a factory world called Titan 9, a woman named Lisa Wang found one of the messages. Lisa had been a computer programmer on Earth. She worked in an alien factory that made electronic parts. She had learned to read alien computer code. Lisa found a way to put secret messages inside the electronic parts. The parts were shipped all over the Empire. When other humans opened the parts, they found the messages. The network grew faster. On a construction world called Vega 4, a man named Danny Murphy learned how to sabotage alien equipment. Danny had been a mechanic on Earth. He knew how to make machines break down in ways that looked like accidents. Danny taught other humans his tricks. Soon, alien equipment was breaking down all over the Empire. The aliens blamed poor maintenance. They never suspected sabotage. On a medical world called Centauri 2, a woman named Maria Gonzalez worked in an alien hospital. Maria had been a doctor on Earth. She studied alien biology and physiology. She learned about their weaknesses. Maria discovered that aliens had very weak immune systems. They had evolved on clean, sterile worlds. They had never been exposed to Earth bacteria. A simple cold virus could kill them. Maria shared this information through the network. Humans began to collect their own germs and bacteria. They put them in the alien food supplies. They spread them through the air systems. The aliens started getting sick and did not know why. The network grew stronger every year. Humans learned to communicate in ways the aliens could not detect. They used old Earth languages that the aliens had never heard. They used code words and symbols. They used hand signals and body language. Jake Morrison became a leader in the network. He organized the miners on Kepler 7. He taught them military tactics. He showed them how to fight with mining tools. He helped them prepare for the day when they would strike back. The network also helped humans survive. They shared information about which foods were safe to eat. They warned each other about dangerous work areas. They helped sick humans get medicine. They made sure that human children learned about Earth and their heritage. Katie Sullivan became a message runner. She could move through the mines faster than anyone else. She carried information between different groups of workers. She helped coordinate activities across the planet. The aliens began to notice small problems. Equipment failures increased. Worker productivity decreased. Minor accidents happened more often. But they did not see the pattern. They did not understand that their slaves were becoming soldiers. Frank Rodriguez worked on bigger projects. He learned how to hack into alien computer systems. He found blueprints for their ships. He discovered their military codes. He mapped their supply routes. The information flowed through the network like water through pipes. Humans on factory worlds learned how to build weapons. Humans on agricultural worlds learned how to poison alien food. Humans on transport worlds learned how to sabotage ships. Marcus Chon planned the next phase of the resistance. He knew that scattered sabotage was not enough. They needed to coordinate their efforts. They needed to strike at the aliens all at once. The plan was simple but dangerous. On a specific date, humans across the Empire would rebel simultaneously. They would capture alien equipment. They would take over ships and bases. They would free their fellow humans. The message went out through the network. It was written in an old Earth language that the aliens could not translate. It said simply, "The chains break at dawn." Humans across the Empire began to prepare. They hid weapons in secret places. They memorized the locations of alien command centers. They identified which aliens were in charge of each facility. Jake Morrison felt excitement for the first time in decades. He looked at the gray-haired humans around him. They had been slaves for 25 years, but they had not been broken. They had been planning and preparing and waiting. The aliens thought they had conquered humanity. They thought humans would work in their mines forever. They thought they had created the perfect slave race, but humans were not like other species. Humans did not accept defeat. Humans did not give up hope. Humans remembered their freedom and would do anything to get it back. The network was ready. The plan was in place. The time for rebellion was coming. Soon, the Empire would learn what it meant to enslave the human race. The rebellion began on a Tuesday at dawn. Across 50 worlds, humans rose up against their alien masters. They used mining tools as weapons. They used their knowledge of alien technology to take control of ships and bases. For the first time in 25 years, humans fought back. On Kepler 7, Jake Morrison led 2,000 miners in an attack on the main command center. They had practiced the attack many times in secret. They knew exactly where to go and what to do. The alien guards were not prepared for the assault. They had never seen humans fight before. They thought humans were weak and afraid. They were wrong. Jake's team moved through the complex like a military unit. They disabled the communications equipment. They captured the weapon storage rooms. They took control of the main computer systems, but the victory was short-lived. The aliens had ships in orbit around every world. When the rebellions began, the ships started bombing human settlements. They did not care about the damage to their own facilities. They only cared about stopping the humans. On Mining Station, Omega-7, Katie Sullivan led a group of workers in capturing an alien transport ship. They had planned to use the ship to escape and join other rebels. But alien fighters attacked the ship before it could leave the ground. Katie watched from a hiding place as the ship exploded. 50 humans died in the blast. She felt anger and sadness at the same time. The humans had fought bravely, but they were still outnumbered and outgunned. The aliens responded to the rebellions with terrible violence. Grand Admiral Veltar, the military commander of the Empire, issued new orders. For every act of rebellion, 10 humans would be killed. For every sabotage, 20 humans would be executed. For every alien death, 50 humans would die. The executions began immediately. On every world, humans were dragged from their barracks and shot in front of their fellow workers. The aliens wanted to break the human spirit. They wanted to show that resistance was hopeless, but the executions had the opposite effect. Instead of becoming afraid, humans became angry. Instead of giving up, they became more determined. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had shown humans that they had nothing left to lose. Frank Rodriguez was one of the humans selected for execution on Kepler-7. He was old and sick, but he had been identified as a leader of the resistance. As he was led to the execution ground, he looked at the other humans watching. "Remember Earth," he said in a loud voice. "Remember freedom. Remember that we are human." The alien guard shot Frank in the head, but his words lived on. The humans who watched began to repeat them. "Remember Earth. Remember freedom. Remember that we are human." The words spread through the network. They became a rallying cry for humans. Across the Empire, every time an alien killed a human, more humans joined the resistance. Marcus Chun was captured during a raid on a weapon depot. The aliens tortured him for information about the resistance network. They used electric shocks and chemical injections. They tried to break his mind with alien mind-reading devices, but Marcus told them nothing. He had trained himself to resist interrogation. He thought about Earth and his family. He thought about the humans who were counting on him. He endured the pain and kept his secrets. The aliens became frustrated. They increased security on every world. They installed surveillance cameras everywhere. They forced humans to wear tracking devices. They used alien technology to monitor human thoughts and emotions, but humans adapted. They learned to communicate without speaking. They used hand signals and body language. They wrote messages in places where cameras could not see. They found ways to disable their tracking devices. Lisa Wong, the computer programmer, made a major breakthrough. She discovered how to hack into the alien surveillance systems. She could make cameras stop working. She could erase tracking data. She could make humans invisible to alien technology. Lisa shared her methods through the network. Soon, humans across the Empire were disappearing from alien monitoring systems. The aliens knew the humans were there, but they could not track them. Resistance began to target alien leaders. Danny Murphy, the mechanic, learned how to make alien vehicles explode. He taught other humans his techniques. Soon, alien commanders were dying in mysterious accidents. Maria Gonzalez, the doctor, developed biological weapons that only affected aliens. She used Earth bacteria and viruses that the aliens had never encountered. She put them in alien food, supplies, and water systems. The biological weapons worked better than anyone expected. Aliens across the Empire began to get sick and die. Their immune systems could not fight off the Earth germs. Entire alien bases were wiped out by diseases that did not hurt humans at all. The Empire began to panic. They had never faced an enemy like this. Other species they had conquered either fought openly or surrendered completely. Humans did neither. They adapted and survived, and struck back in ways the aliens could not predict. Admiral Veltar decided to make an example. He chose mining station Omega-7 as the target. He would kill every human on the station. He would show the entire Empire what happened to species that resisted. But Katie Sullivan and her team were ready. They had been expecting this attack. They had prepared for it. When the alien ships arrived, They found that the humans had turned the mining station into a fortress. Humans had rigged the entire station with explosives. They had set traps in every corridor. They had weapons hidden in every room. They were ready to fight to the death. The battle lasted for 3 days. The aliens sent wave after wave of soldiers into the station. The humans fought them in the narrow tunnels and cramped rooms. They used their knowledge of the station's layout to their advantage. Katie led the defense of the main mining area. She and 50 other humans held off hundreds of alien soldiers. They used mining equipment as weapons. They used their own bodies as shields to protect their friends. On the 3rd day, the aliens broke through the human defenses. They captured Katie and the remaining defenders. Admiral Veltar himself came down to the station to interrogate them. "You cannot win," he told Katie. "Your species is outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. You have no ships, no weapons, no hope. Why do you continue to fight?" Katie looked at the alien commander. Her face was covered in blood and dirt. Her clothes were torn, but her eyes were still bright with defiance. "Because we are human," she said. "Because we remember what it means to be free. Because we would rather die fighting than live as slaves." Admiral Veltar ordered Katie to be executed. But before the guards could carry out the order, alarms began to sound throughout the station. The humans had activated their final trap. The entire mining station exploded in a massive fireball. Katie and her team died, but they took thousands of aliens with them. The explosion could be seen from space. It became a symbol of human resistance throughout the Empire. The network mourned the loss of Katie and her brave team. But they also celebrated. The humans had shown that they could hurt the Empire. They had proven that aliens could be defeated. Dr. Alex Thompson, a scientist working on a research station, made another important discovery. He had been studying alien biology for years. He found that aliens had a weakness that could be exploited on a massive scale. Alex developed a plan to use this weakness against the entire Empire. It would require coordination between humans on hundreds of worlds. It would be the biggest operation. In the history of the Resistance. The message went out through the network. It was time for the final phase of the rebellion. It was time to strike at the heart of the Empire itself. Jake Morrison received the message in his prison cell. He had been captured after the battle at the command center. He was scheduled to be executed in the morning. But he smiled when he read the message. The humans were not defeated. They were not broken. They were getting ready to show the aliens what happened when you enslaved the human race. The Empire was about to learn that humans were not just survivors. They were warriors. And they were coming for their freedom. Dr. Alex Thompson's plan was simple but deadly. He had discovered that aliens breathed a different mixture of gases than humans. Their lungs needed specific chemicals to process oxygen. If those chemicals were removed from the air, the aliens would suffocate. Alex had developed a biological agent that ate those chemicals. The agent was harmless to humans and other enslaved species. But it was deadly to all members of the Zephyrian Empire. The plan required humans on every world to release the agent into the air systems at the same time. It had to be coordinated perfectly. If the aliens discovered what was happening, they would seal their bases and the plan would fail. Marcus Chun had survived his torture and escaped from alien custody. He now coordinated the resistance from a hidden base on an asteroid. He received messages from human cells on 300 worlds. They were all ready to execute the plan. The date was set for the anniversary of Earth's invasion. It would be 30 years since the aliens had first enslaved humanity. It would be the day humans took their revenge. Jake Morrison was still in prison, but he was not alone. The aliens had captured many resistance leaders. They were all scheduled to be executed together as an example to other humans. But Jake had a different plan. A prison was on a military station above the planet Rigel 5. Jake had been studying the station's layout for months. He knew where the weapons were stored. He knew where the ships were docked. He knew where the station's life support systems were located. On the day of the biological attack, Jake and his fellow prisoners would take over the station. They would use it as a base to coordinate the human uprising. They would show the galaxy that humans were not victims anymore. The attack began at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. On every world in the Empire, humans released Alex's biological agent into the air systems. The agent spread quickly through the alien bases and cities. At first, the aliens did not notice anything wrong. The agent was invisible and odorless. It worked slowly, removing the chemicals from the air over several hours. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, it was too late. On the factory world of Vega 4, Danny Murphy watched from hiding as alien guards began to gasp for breath. They ran to their emergency stations, but their oxygen masks did not help. The agent had already processed all the air in the base. On the agricultural world of Centauri 2, Maria Gonzalez led a team of human workers in capturing alien equipment. The alien supervisors were too busy trying to breathe to fight back. The humans took control of the entire farming operation. On the research station where Alex Thompson worked, aliens began collapsing at their workstations. Alex and his team seized the alien computers and research facilities. They now had access to the Empire's most advanced technology. The biological attack was more successful than anyone had hoped. Within 6 hours, most of the alien forces on the outer worlds were dead or dying. The humans had struck a devastating blow against the Empire, but the war was far from over. The aliens had backup forces on their home worlds. They had ships in deep space that were not affected by the biological agent. They began to organize a counterattack. Admiral Veltar ordered the destruction of all infected worlds. He would rather lose the planets than lose control of the Empire. His ships began bombing human settlements from orbit, but the humans were ready for this response. They had captured alien ships during the biological attack. They had learned to fly them and fight with them. For the first time in 30 years, humans had a space fleet. Jake Morrison escaped from prison just as the biological attack began. He and his fellow prisoners overpowered the weakened guards and took control of the military station. They captured dozens of alien warships and thousands of weapons. Jake was now Admiral Morrison, commander of the first human space fleet in 3 decades. He was 75 years old, but he felt young again. He was finally fighting back against the aliens who had stolen his world. The first space battle took place near the planet Kepler 7. A human fleet of captured alien ships faced off against a Zephyrian battle group. The aliens expected an easy victory. They had been fighting space battles for centuries. The humans had been slaves, but the humans had advantages the aliens did not expect. They knew the alien ships better than the aliens did. They had maintained and repaired those ships for 30 years. They knew every weakness and vulnerability. Tony Rivera, a former Navy pilot, led the human attack. He had learned to fly alien ships by watching their pilots. He had studied their tactics and strategies. He knew how to exploit their weaknesses. The human ships moved in patterns the aliens had never seen before. They attacked from unexpected directions. They used the alien ships' own weapons against them in ways the aliens had not thought possible. The battle was over in 2 hours. The human fleet destroyed or captured every alien ship. Admiral Morrison's forces had won their first major victory in space. News of the victory spread through the human network. Humans on every world began to fight with new hope. They knew they could win. They knew they could defeat the Empire. The war expanded rapidly. Humans captured more alien ships and bases. They freed other enslaved species and recruited them to fight. The rebellion became a full-scale war of liberation. Rachel. Kim, a former diplomat, became the voice of the growing alliance. She had been working as a translator for the aliens. She spoke dozens of languages and understood many different cultures. She helped coordinate the various species in the rebellion. The Kalari were crystalline beings who had been enslaved for mining work. They could survive in the vacuum of space and work on the outside of ships. They became the best ship repair crews in the Alliance. The Threks were insect-like creatures who had been used as living computers. They could process information faster than any machine. They became the intelligence analysts and strategic planners. For the Alliance, the Mokari were aquatic beings who had been forced to work in underwater facilities. They could breathe in liquid environments where other species would drown. They became the underwater assault specialists. Each species brought unique abilities to the Alliance. Together, they were stronger than any of them had been alone. The humans had done something no one in the galaxy had ever accomplished. They had united dozens of different species against a common enemy. The war reached its turning point at the Battle of Proxima Station. The station was a major military base that controlled shipping routes throughout the Empire. If the Alliance could capture it, they could cut off supplies to the alien home worlds. The battle was the largest space engagement in galactic history. 500 Alliance ships faced off against 800 Imperial ships. The fighting lasted for 12 hours and covered an area larger than a solar system. Jake Morrison commanded the Alliance fleet from his flagship. He was now 80 years old, but he refused to retire. He had waited too long for this moment to miss it. The Alliance used tactics that confused the Imperial forces. Human ships would attack and retreat, drawing the aliens into ambushes. Kalari. Repair crews would board damaged Imperial ships and sabotage them from the inside. Threks intelligence officers would hack into alien communications and spread false orders. The turning point came when a team of human Marines captured the station's main reactor. They threatened to blow it up unless the Imperial forces surrendered. The aliens knew the humans were serious. They had seen what humans were willing to do at mining station Omega-7. The Imperial commander surrendered. The Alliance had won control of Proxima Station and the surrounding space. The Empire was now cut in half. The alien home worlds were isolated from their outer colonies. The Alliance pressed their advantage. They attacked alien supply convoys. They captured strategic planets. They freed billions of enslaved beings. The Empire was crumbling, but the aliens had one last desperate plan. They would destroy their own capital world rather than let it fall to the Alliance. They would take their enemies down with them. The final battle was coming. The Alliance fleet prepared to attack the Zephyrian home world. It would be the most dangerous mission in the war, but it was also the most important. The humans had come far from the scared slaves they had been 30 years ago. They had learned to fight in space. They had learned to lead other species. They had learned to win. The Empire was about to learn that humans never forgot and never forgave. The chains were finally breaking. Freedom was within reach. The final battle began at dawn over Zephyros Prime, the capital world of the Empire. The planet was a massive sphere of purple crystal and metal. It had been the center of galactic power for 1,000 years. Now it was surrounded by ships from dozens of liberated worlds. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Defiance. The ship had once been a Zephyrian dreadnought. Now it flew the colors of the Human Liberation Alliance. Jake was 81 years old. His hair was white and his hands shook with age, but his eyes were still sharp and determined. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," he said into his communicator. "Today, we end 30 years of slavery. Today, we show the galaxy that no one owns the human race." The Alliance fleet was the largest ever assembled. 2,000 ships from 50 different species filled the space around Zephyros Prime. Each ship carried the survivors of alien oppression. Each crew member had a personal reason to fight. The Zephyrian defense fleet was impressive, but desperate. Grand Admiral Veltar commanded 3,000 warships from the safety of his fortress on the planet's surface. But he knew his forces were outnumbered and outmatched. The Alliance had been winning battles for 2 years. The space battle was fierce and chaotic. Alliance ships attacked from all directions. Human fighters, piloted by veterans like Tony Rivera, weaved between the alien vessels. They struck fast and hard, then disappeared before the aliens could respond. The Kalari crews used their crystal bodies to repair damaged ships in the middle of battle. They could survive in the vacuum of space and work on the outside of hulls while lasers and missiles flew around them. The Threx, intelligence officers, hacked into Zephyrian communications. They spread false orders and confusion through the alien fleet. Enemy ships began firing on each other by mistake, but the real battle was taking place on the planet's surface. A special team of human Marines had been secretly landed on Zephyros Prime. Their mission was to capture the planet's defense grid and prevent Admiral Veltar from destroying this world. The team was led by a woman named Jenny Walsh. She had been born on Mining Station Omega 7. She had grown up hearing stories about Katie Sullivan and the heroes who had died fighting for freedom. Now she carried on their mission. Jenny's team moved through the underground tunnels beneath the capital city. They had learned these skills in the mines and factories where they had been slaves. They could move through spaces where aliens could not follow. The tunnels were dark and dangerous. Alien security forces patrolled them with weapons and detection equipment. But the humans were experts at hiding and surviving. They had been doing it for 30 years. The team reached the defense grid control center after 6 hours of careful movement. The center was heavily guarded. 50 alien soldiers protected the most important facility on the planet. Jenny's team attacked from 3 directions at once. They used weapons they had built from mining equipment and stolen alien technology. The battle was short but intense. The aliens were not prepared for humans who fought like soldiers instead of slaves. Within 20 minutes, Jenny's team had control of the defense grid, but they discovered something terrible. Admiral Veltar had rigged the entire planet to explode. If he activated the self-destruct system, Zephyros Prime would become a giant bomb that would destroy everything within a light year. Admiral Morrison. "This is Jenny Walsh," she said into her communicator. "We have the defense grid, but there's a problem. The whole planet is wired to explode. If Veltar pushes the button, we all die." Jake Morrison received the message on his ship. Around him, the space battle was turning in favor of the Alliance. But none of that mattered if the planet exploded. "Can you stop it?" Jake asked. "I don't know," Jenny replied. "The system is more complex than anything we've seen. I need time to figure it out." Time was something they did not have. Admiral Veltar was cornered in his fortress. He would rather destroy everything than surrender to former slaves. The Alliance had minutes before he activated the doomsday weapon, but humans had learned something important during their years of slavery. They had learned to work together. They had learned to trust each other. They had learned that no one person had to carry the burden alone. Dr. Alex Thompson was aboard one of the Alliance ships. He was now 90 years old, but his mind was still brilliant. He had helped develop the biological weapon that had started the war. Now he studied the data from Jenny's team. "The self-destruct system has a weakness," Alex announced over the communication system. "It requires a specific sequence of commands from multiple locations. If we can interrupt that sequence, the system will shut down." Lisa Wang, the computer expert, was aboard another ship. She analyzed the alien computer. codes that Alex had discovered. "I can hack into the system," she said. "But I need someone inside the fortress to access the main computer." Marcus Chun was leading a ground assault on the fortress. His troops had been fighting their way through the alien defenses for hours. They were close to the main building, but not close enough. "I can get there," said a voice over the communication system. It was Danny Murphy, the mechanic. He was now 70 years old, but he was still the best saboteur in the Alliance. "Give me 5 minutes." Danny left his unit and moved toward the fortress alone. He used skills he had learned during 30 years of secret resistance work. He climbed walls, crawled through ventilation systems, and avoided alien patrols. He reached the main computer just as Admiral Veltar began entering the self-destruct codes. Danny attacked the alien commander from behind. They fought hand-to-hand in the computer room, while the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Danny was old and tired, but he was also desperate. He knew that millions of beings would die if he failed. He fought with the strength of a man who had nothing left to lose. The fight ended when Danny grabbed a piece of broken equipment and struck Veltar in the head. The alien commander fell to the floor and did not get up. "Lisa, I'm at the computer," Danny said. "Tell me what to do." Lisa guided Danny through the process of shutting down the self-destruct system. It took 10 minutes of careful work. Every second, Danny expected alien soldiers to burst through the door, but Marcus Chun's troops were keeping them busy. Finally, the doomsday weapon was disabled. The planet was safe. The Alliance had won. The surrender came 2 hours later. The remaining Zephyrian forces laid down their weapons. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years was finished. Jake Morrison stood in the ruins of Admiral Veltar's fortress. Around him, soldiers from dozens of species celebrated their victory. But Jake felt tired more than happy. Too many friends had died during the long war. He thought about Frank Rodriguez, who had died during the early executions. He thought about Katie Sullivan, who had sacrificed herself at mining station Omega-7. He thought about all the humans who had suffered and died as slaves, but he also thought about the future. The galaxy was free now. Billions of beings could live without fear of slavery or oppression. Rachel Kim organized the peace negotiations. Representatives from every liberated species came together to decide what would happen next. Some wanted revenge against their former oppressors. Others wanted to build a new kind of government. The humans surprised everyone. They did not want to rule the galaxy. They did not want to become the new empire. They wanted something different. "We fought for freedom," Jake Morrison said at the peace conference. "Not just our own freedom, but freedom for everyone. We want to build a galaxy where no one can enslave another person again." The Galactic Liberation Council was established with representatives from every species. The former Zephyrian worlds were turned into refugee centers and hospitals. The advanced alien technology was shared freely among all species. The vast slave camps became schools and medical centers. The mining worlds were cleaned up and made safe for habitation. The factory worlds began producing goods for peaceful purposes. Instead of weapons of war. Jake Morrison retired to a small farm on a planet that had once been a slave world. He grew vegetables and raised animals. He wrote a book about the war and the lessons humanity had learned. Marcus Chun became the first director of the Galactic Liberation Council. He worked to make sure that slavery would never return to the galaxy. He established laws and institutions that protected the rights of all species. Dr. Alex Thompson founded a medical research institute that developed cures for diseases affecting all species. His work saved millions of lives and helped heal the hive. Damage caused by years of oppression. Jenny Walsh became a teacher. She traveled from world to world, telling young people about the war and why it had been necessary to fight. She made sure that future generations would remember the price of freedom. Lisa Wong helped design new computer systems that could not be used for oppression. She created networks that connected all the worlds in the galaxy and allowed free communication. Between species. Danny Murphy opened a technical school where former slaves could learn new skills. He taught them how to build and repair the machines that would help create a better galaxy. Maria Gonzalez established medical clinics on every world. She trained doctors from all species to work together. She helped heal not just physical wounds, but the emotional scars left by slavery. The memorial to the human resistance was built on the site of Mining Station Omega 7. It was a simp,